Well, Donald Trump has once again eviscerated the hapless and hopeless UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Starmer, of course, always 10 steps behind, has now decided to shore up aircraft carriers after initially refusing the US permission to use UK bases for its offensive against Iran. Too little too late, Keir. Donald Trump has posted the United Kingdom, our once great ally, maybe the greatest of them all, is finally giving serious thought to sending 2 aircraft carriers to the Middle East. That's okay, Prime Minister Starmer, we don't need them any longer. But we will remember we don't need people that join wars after we've already won. And the pair have since held a phone call where the leaders began by discussing the latest situation in the Middle East and the military cooperation between the two. Joining me now is Arab-Israeli advocate and former IDF soldier Yosef Haddad. Yosef, a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you very much for joining me. Look, what is it with these weak and woke world leaders like Keir Starmer? A key ally is counting on them in a time of crisis, in a time of need, and Keir's running scared.
You know something? When you named Starmer as the UK Prime Minister, I couldn't not to think about Winston Churchill. When Winston Churchill did this sign as a victory against the Nazis, and how the great nation of Britain actually, with the United States, managed to defeat the Nazi regime. Imagine if back then, when the UK came to the United States, and then they would say, you know what? I will send after maybe a carrier here or a ship there. Look, let's put it out there. The UK Prime Minister is very, very, very loved by the extremists in the Middle East. Why? Because he's weak. And when someone is weak, they love him, but they do not respect him. But they respect Trump. And they respect Trump because Trump is strong. Now they fear him, but they respect him. And they hate him, but they respect him. This is the difference between him to Macron, to not just Macron, as well as the Spanish Prime Minister, all of those leaders who unfortunately are subjugated to the extremists from within their country. I'm speaking about the woke organizations, all the hard, radical, left, progressive organization, which somehow aligned themselves with the illegal immigrants, extremists coming from the Middle East, yeah? And instead of adopting the Western values, also in Australia, instead of that, they want you guys to adopt their values and not the good ones. And that is the biggest problem. So when you don't fight, or when you don't handle the extremists in the way that you need to handle, they're going to keep asking for more and demanding for more. And when you see some situation like this, you arrive to a very weakened government that will do absolutely everything to maintain the quietness and the silence in their own countries. But they don't understand that they are making more problem instead of actually finding a solution.
Absolutely spot on. And you're right. I mean, it's here in Australia, it's here in the UK. We have brought people in, some who hate us, some who hate our values, and some who have no interest in assimilating in the countries. And this is where the big issues start. I think you're spot on. The other thing that Keir Starmer said, and actually the Australian Foreign Minister for that matter, they want dialogue and diplomacy. Now, you tell me, Yosef, how are you supposed to negotiate via dialogue and diplomacy with a murderous, vile dictatorship that has proven over and over again that it cannot be trusted?
This is just the same old of Westerns do not understand the Middle Eastern mentality. And I'm sorry. I am sorry if I'm honest and direct with no political correct, because I don't care. I need to say the truth because I want to go down in the history as someone who said all the truth without trying to sugarcoat it in any way. So let's give all the truth. The Iranian regime, they want to butcher anyone who thinks of some in a way to take them down or to change the regime. That's why they call the Revolutionary Guards. Their mission is to protect the revolution that happened in the 70s, the Islamic Revolution. So they will do everything. That's why they massacred 40,000 plus people just in the last month. That's why they have zero human rights, women rights. And we've been saying that for all the time, but further than that, look at their chants. Since day one, they're chanting death to America and death to Israel. Why they are doing this? Because they know that in order for them to arrive to the big devil, which is the United States of America, they need to get rid of the small devil, which is the state of Israel. And if they manage to do that, then the next stage to the West and to America is even simpler for them. And that's why I will say it clearly. They do not want negotiations. They're going to fool you. They're going to play the game while they're speaking with you and telling you something in front of your face. Behind your back are doing completely the opposite. So I am warning everybody in the West. I am a Middle Eastern. I understand that mentality. The Iranian regime is a terrorist regime that wants to impose the Sharia law, not just in Iran, in every country in the Middle East, and after that, in every country in the Western world. So wake up, because the bottom line is, if we do not destroy the Iranian regime, it's going to be, one, bad for the Iranian people who want freedom, bad for Israeli security, bad for the Middle East, and bad for the Western world. By that, if you didn't get it, with all the evidence that there is against that regime, then you're nothing but a useful idiot to them to promote the agenda of a terrorist regime. So I will repeat again, wake up.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree with you more. And Donald Trump is not just doing this for America. He's doing this for the survival of the West, because that is a dangerous regime who doesn't just hate America, but hates all of us. I think you're absolutely spot on. I've got to ask you about the real deranged response to the strikes by the left. Now, I saw that you went out to what looked like an anti-Israel, anti-Iran, anti-Iran strike, an anti-West gathering. And you look like you were being pushed around here. Tell us what was happening.
Well, first of all, this is a great example of the Israeli society. I'm an Arab, and there were actually Jews there protesting against the strike on the Iranian regime. Now, I should say it's a tiny, tiny minority. Yeah, but why I brought the information that I am an Arab? Because I hear so many people talking about Israel as being an apartheid state. Listen to me very carefully. If I lived under apartheid state and I did what I did yesterday in that protest, I would be already locked in prison for so many years that I couldn't remember how the light would be. But there I was, an Arab, protesting against Jews who are against the war. Despite the fact that being minority, it was very important for me to come and tell the Iranian people, listen, don't see on the social media those tiny minority in Israel and think that the Israelis are against the war or against destroying the Iranian regime. It was very important for me to send them a clear message. We are with you guys. We want to see your freedom, and your win is our win, and your fight is our fight. And those tiny minorities, nothing, barely 20, 30, 40 people, no more than that, they do not represent the Israeli society. And so for me, it was a great message to the Iranian people to tell them we are with you guys and we will fight together. And as well, an information video to any useful idiot who calls Israel an apartheid state.
Look, good on you. And I had a little laugh to myself, because you really challenged these idiots. You put a lot of great questions to them and none of them could answer. Have a listen to this.
Why you oppose a war against a regime that killed, massacred 40,000 of its people? 40,000 of its people. What do you have to say to the Iranian people? What do you have to say to the Iranian people? 40,000 of their people died, killed, massacred. Do you have any message to the Iranian people? Huh? Do you?
And Yosef, they've got nothing to say. They've got nothing. You've got Iranians on the other side of the world celebrating. They're happy. They love Trump. They wanted this. And then, as you call them so well, useful idiots, you're asking them questions. Why don't they want to answer?
So let me tell you something. Literally about 5 minutes ago, I was on a live TV in Israel on a debate against one of the leaders of the people, the minority people, the tiny people, those who actually protested. And she was from the LGBT community. And I just wanted to do one thing. So I called my Persian friend who ran away from the Iranian regime and now is based in London. And I called him live on TV in Israel, and I put him on a speaker, and I said, I have a question. What will happen to a transgender if he lived today in Tehran under the Iranian regime? One word shook the whole TV, yeah? And he said, execution. And I looked at that activist and I said, don't you see that you guys are like chickens for KFC? Because the same people that you are protesting for are the same people that will demolish you, that resent you, that hate everything that you represent, from human rights to the rights of the LGBT community, to the basic rights of freedom of speech. You don't have it. And you are fighting for those who massacred 40,000 plus people. They don't have any answer. They are driven by a political agenda here in Israel and no more than that. The problem is that when they spread this message on social media, because, the social media can just take something tiny and make it big, then we have a problem of a fake news that they will come and say that the Israeli society is against its own army and against its own state when they are fighting a just war against a terrorist regime. We will not allow them. We will continue to shout harder than them.
Absolutely. And this is the same, so-called tolerant left who've suddenly now, funnily enough, forgotten about all the atrocities of the Iranian regime. It's really interesting how they've got a selective memory on these things, but only when it comes to Donald Trump. That is so dangerous. And you mentioned as well the feminism. I mean, have a look at this, Feminists for Palestine.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
I'd like to see them doing that in Tehran and not being covered up as well. But the question has to be asked, Joseph, where are the feminists now?
Well, you know what? If there is a definition of double standard and hypocrites, it's exactly all those human rights organizations who shouted, what about the human rights of the Palestinians in Gaza? What about the human rights of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria, which today we know as the colonist name of the West Bank to Jordan, yeah? But this is another story and another history for next time. But the bottom line is that those organizations, they are driven by also a specific agenda that when it's not Israel, they don't care. But if Israel is in it, they care. I always suggested to Sudan. I always suggested to Nigeria. I always suggested to Venezuela, to Cuba, even to the Iranians. North Korea, if you want the world to care, say that the IDF and Israel is attacking you. And this, everybody will care. Everybody will go and march for you guys. When the IDF, and I saw it in my own eyes, called off a strike, because despite the fact that it was a top senior terrorist from Hamas, and I saw it in my own eyes, calling off a strike because there were kids there. Kids, they come and attack my country, and the IDF, who actually does everything to ensure that it is the most moral army in the world. This is crazy. And you know what? Just right now in Lebanon, I shared a video of a call between an IDF spokesperson to a Lebanese. And in that call, you hear the IDF calling the Lebanese guy and tell them, please evacuate the building. There's a terror activity there. We want to strike that building, but we don't want to kill innocent people. And literally they evacuated it. And then Israel did a warning strike to say that in a minute we're going to blow up that building. There's a terrorist activism there. And after a minute, they took it down. Meanwhile, the Iranian regime is butchering his own people, is raping the women who are captured because of the fact that they didn't put the hijab on the right way, and of course preventing from them the basic freedom of speech and religion. And they don't say anything. Have you seen, by the way, the flotillas by Greta, for instance?
Yes.
I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Meanwhile, they're preparing another flotilla to Israel. Hypocrites. Hypocrites. And useful idiots, no more than that.
Yeah, especially when it comes to Greta. I mean, she is, useful idiot number one, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I want to get your thoughts on where the war is at. Donald Trump says that America is winning, and this is what he said he wanted to see from Iran. Have a listen.
Can you give us an idea of what unconditional surrender looks like to you? I mean, what do you want from Iran?
I said unconditional, not conditional. I said unconditional. It's where they cry uncle, or when they can't fight any longer, there's nobody around to cry uncle. That could happen too. because we've wiped out their leadership numerous times already. So it's if they surrender, or if there is nobody around to surrender, but they're rendered useless in terms of military.
Yeah, Joseph, I mean, the US is not backing down, but by all accounts, the US is clearly in such a stronger position. Where do you think this is heading?
Well, let me tell you before I say my analyzing where it's going, but tell you what my wish. Look, I've studied the Iranian regime, and I've studied very well their proxies: the Houthis in Yemen, Ansar Allah in Iraq, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon. All of them are proxies of the Iranian regime. They are vicious. They are terrorists. And they want to kill anyone who does not align with their agenda, their sadistic agenda. Therefore, my wish is very simple. If you cut the head of the snake, you cut the whole body, and then everything is going to be much better in the Middle East. That's why my wish is that we must continue until the Iranian regime is completely destroyed. It is going to be very good for the Iranian people, as I said, for their freedom. It's going to be very good for us, for our security, for the stability of the Middle East, and of course for America, because America is the big target of the Iranian regime. So I urge Trump and I urge Benjamin Netanyahu, you must complete the job. We are experienced. Every time we did not complete the job, Hamas got stronger, Hezbollah got stronger, and the IRGC got stronger. So we have to finish the job. And one more thing, when it comes to the Israeli spirit, today I was actually across the entire state. I started my day in the north, up on the border with Israel and Lebanon, ended up here in Jerusalem, but in the way I was in Tel Aviv, and I went where the missile hit as well. The Israeli spirit is unbelievable. They are strong. We are strong, and we are ready. The front command are ready to do absolutely everything to give our fighters on the borders, on the front, to give them the power to continue to fight. That's why I'm telling you, here in Israel, despite the rumors and despite the lies, we are not giving up. We want to win. We are strong. And we want the countries, both America and Israel, to continue until there's a change in the regime.
Yeah, so well said. Absolutely. And I think, any sane person would agree with you, because you've got to fight this evil head on, and Donald Trump can't give up now. And by all accounts, he's not going to. He's been very, very clear on that. Before we let you go, I've got to just ask you about the Liberal media. The bias has been a disgrace. Have a look at this. The BBC's altered the speech of the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. They did the same with Donald Trump a couple of months ago. Now, Hegseth said it turns out the regime that chanted death to America and death to Israel received death from America and Israel, but somehow the BBC translated it to the people. Have a look.
Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel.
مردمی که فریاد می‌زدن که مرگ به آمریکا و مرگ بر اسرائیل، حالا چیزی که دریافت کردن مرگ از طرف آمریکا و اسرائیل.
Look, this is unbelievable, Joseph. I mean, there is a huge difference between the Iranian people and the Iranian regime, isn't there? What do you make of this?
Absolutely. And you know what? I couldn't agree more with you, because we here in Israel are very careful, because we don't have any problem with the Iranian people. In fact, many of the Iranian people and many of the Israelis love and support each other and can't wait to visit in Tehran and visit in Tel Aviv. That's why it's very crucial to differentiate between the Iranian people that we love to the sadistic Iranian regime. And the fact that they translate it like this is deliberate. And this is what happened with the media today, where they actually take something and then they fix it to fit their narrative. We've been suffering from this in Israel for the last 2 years since the 7th of October. Actually, we've been suffering from it for many years, but it was way harsher after the 7th of October, and especially from the BBC when they lie and incite and lie. And every time we try to expose their lies, it's already too late, because the commotion, whether it's on the social media or on TV, it's already starting, and you cannot actually stop it. So meanwhile, people thinking that Israel struck a hospital, but it was actually from an Islamic jihad missile that they launched a failed launch and struck the hospital. But everyone in the world echoed the narrative of Hamas. This is unbelievable, and they should be sued, and they should be handed accountable for that. And you know what? I'm sick and tired of that. We need also to shame them. So very well for putting that on the show, and very well that I have the opportunity to shame them and say, you guys, nothing but stupid and useful idiots, and they need to know that they are stupid and useful idiots.
Yep, we're seeing it, with the BBC, even the ABC here in Australia, all taxpayer-funded organisations. They're all the same, and the bias has been an absolute disgrace. They should all hang themselves in shame, hang their heads in shame. I absolutely agree. Yosef Haddad, it has been such a pleasure having your analysis and having you on the show. Really appreciate your insights. Thank you very much for joining me.
Shukran, Toda. Thank you for having me.